On this episode, I share with you the pros and cons of buying a home versus renting. Welcome everyone to this episode of the AskJasonGelios show. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor. If you're new to this show, I do this show every week where I answer questions that I get from current clients, past clients, friends, family members, people that I meet on the street. So I really appreciate those questions coming in. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're watching on this. If you're watching this on my website, it's abouttherealestate.com. Be sure to subscribe to my monthly e-newsletter where I share value-packed videos and some little articles in there to help whether you are looking to buy a home, sell a home, or you own a home currently. So with that said, we're going to dive into should you buy or rent a home? There's been a lot of discussion about this. This is probably the most common question that I do get. Weighing the pros and the cons of buying versus renting. So we're going to go ahead and talk about both options, and ultimately it's up to you in your personal situation what you want to do, but let's go ahead and dive into the content. So on the renting side, if you choose to rent a home or apartment, whatever the case may be, there are some advantages and some disadvantages, like anything in life. And so I'm going to go through the advantages of renting and some of the disadvantages. So obviously the pros of renting are you have fewer upfront costs and paperwork, right? It's a lot less money to get into renting a place. You have more freedom to be more mobile. You can move around, you can change areas, and it's a lot easier to just after your lease is up to just get the new place. You're not responsible for maintenance or repairs. Now, if you rent a home, some of that you may be responsible for, but not the total cost, right? It might be up to a certain amount, but for the most part, you're not really responsible for major maintenance or repairs. You don't have to worry about potential home values dropping, right? The potential decrease of home values. You don't have to worry about that because when you rent, you just rent. On that same note, rental costs per month can go up when you go to renew your lease, depending on what your landlord does. So just know that could be potential increase there, but you don't have to worry so much about home values dropping, right? You can build credit if your landlord shows your rent payments on your credit. Some do, some don't. It just, make sure that if you're renting a place that they show that you are making rental payments every month. So last but not least, you're talking no property tax bills, right? You don't have to worry about tax bills. You don't have to worry about paying the local government and all that fun stuff. You just pay your landlord and you are set. So that can be an additional savings there. Another savings too that is not on my list here is water costs. Most of the time, especially if you rent an apartment or a condo, is they include the water in your bill. And some landlords will include heat. That's rare, but that could be out there. So you may not have to worry about that stuff too. And you don't have to pay homeowners insurance, although you do have to carry rental insurance, renter's insurance. Most landlords, especially these days, they'll request a copy of that and they'll make sure that that's current every so often. So those are some of the advantages of renting. Let's dive into some disadvantages or cons of renting a place. Your landlord can raise your rent, like I said earlier, to be aware of that. They can raise your rent or they can sell the property. So halfway through your lease, they could potentially come to you and say, hey, we're going to sell the property, especially if you're renting a home or whatnot, and then it gets into a bunch of legal things because you have a contract. But ultimately, they can sell the property, changing your situation without you being prepared for it. Another disadvantage is your choices may be limited depending on vacancies. When you're going to buy a house, there's more options. When you go to rent, there's less options. That's just the way it is. You might have to move multiple times. That again goes back to what I covered earlier about how your landlord pretty much can do what they want within reason, right? So you may have to move multiple times. Another disadvantage is you're not building equity. So you're not gaining anything when you rent except a place to live. And then, of course, no tax benefits. Now, I'm not a tax professional. I recommend you asking your tax professional, about that. But I can tell you that there's no tax benefits renting. Homeowners expense and all that stuff. It's just, you're not going to have the tax benefits. So those are some of the disadvantages of renting. Next, we're going to dive into the pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages of purchasing a home. Now we dive into the advantages of buying a home. And while there's a lot of advantages, I'm going to share with you some here. So now, one advantage of buying a home is you can build equity and credit. Okay, over time, you can potentially build equity, and it will show on your credit that you're making mortgage payments. Matter of fact, some of the worst things that you can do is be late on your mortgage, because that's the most important. That will affect your credit big time. So you'll have credit history, and you'll also usually build equity depending on the market. Another one is you don't have a landlord to answer to. You don't have to get things approved through a landlord. Now, if you're doing work to the home, you may have to get a permit through the city. That's not really asking, that's just following the guidelines and making sure that everything is done right. For example, a fence has to be installed right. You can't just throw it up however you like. Same thing with a pool, right? There's safety things, but ultimately you don't have to answer to a landlord. You may have an association. By the way, a lot of newer subdivisions now have associations in place, which is okay. You just look at the bylaws and make sure. But again, no landlord. Okay, another one is more stability, especially with school districts and all that fun stuff. So you know that if you want your kids to go, if you have kids and you want them to go to a specific school district and you move in there, that you can pretty much control them going to that school district because you own the home. Versus if you rent a home in an area and then let's say your landlord sells it and you have to move areas because there's nothing else to rent. So more stability. Possible tax benefits. I'm not going to get into tax benefits deeper, but I will tell you that there are tax benefits of owning a home. Can improve or upgrade a home to your taste. You could, in a nutshell, do what you want with the inside of the home. You can paint it pink, green, lavender, whatever the case may be, right? You don't have to ask anybody, except maybe your spouse, but you can detail your house however you like. Now, a lot of times the exterior of a home, again, you may, if you're building something outside or whatnot, you may have to ask, or adding a patio, you may have to ask the local government or the city, hey, am I allowed to put up a fence like this or this? But you don't have a landlord to ask permission, for, and you don't have to run paint schemes or ask if you can paint the hallways or paint the rooms. You can do what you want. You can change the flooring. You can upgrade your house however you like. With any option in life, right, there's gonna be advantages and disadvantages. And so now there are disadvantages of buying a home. First one is you're required to put down a substantial amount of money. Yes, you are. Most of the time you have to have a down payment. Sometimes you have to pay off some things, right, to get approved. There's various things that can happen. There's closing costs. There's things like that. I personally don't think that closing costs are crazy expensive if you have the right lender, but there are costs, and they do cost more compared to renting. Now, you could lose money if home values decline. Home values go up and down and up and down all over the place, right? Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. So just know that what the market does, that dictates what you will earn in terms of equity or lose in terms of equity. Another one is there's extra expenses beyond mortgage payments, home maintenance costs, maintaining the lawn, your water bill, right? If you have a sprinkler system, water bill, general maintenance of the house is going to cost you extra. You should always be aware of that. And on another note, homeowners insurance that you have to maintain on the property. And potential flood insurance if you are in a flood zone. Now, rising home prices can cause many markets to affect your value, which means if you're buying and the values are high, there's more of a risk of you losing a little bit of equity when things readjust. And also low inventory can affect it as well. Now, last but not least, you are responsible for repairs. You are responsible for repairs. The kitchen sink breaks, it's all on you, right? You gotta call somebody or you gotta fix it yourself. I can tell you that owning a home, personal experience here, owning a home will help you be a better handyman. Now, I don't fix crazy stuff. I know my limits, but you will learn how to fix the basic things, right? Sink faucets, you learn how to change those out. You learn how to do the basic stuff because you don't want to pay someone $300 just to come out. And then they charge you for the repairs. So you are ultimately responsible for the repairs as well as remodeling. So many homes that I've been into, especially in my county of Macomb County and even parts of Oakland County, it's rare that people upgrade their houses. And so what happens is they want to get top dollar, but then they didn't upgrade the house over the years, right? They've had it for years or decades, and they find out that they can't get top dollar because they didn't upgrade it. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of buying a home. I appreciate you guys watching and tuning into this episode. Again, follow me on social media, visit my website, allabouttherealestate.com. Sign up for my stuff that I send out. I send out value-packed information every week, every month, depends on what you choose. And you can subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the bell, be notified, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys providing the content that I need to answer questions here. So if there's something that you want to see on the show, if you want to see a change, if you want, just any recommendations, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor, and make it a great week.